Hello plant friends, my name is Victoria and you're watching Plantastics. Today we're going to be looking at all of my African violets. This is kind of like a little bit of a tour. So I'm going to start with Rambling Right Along. So this one has some interesting coloration on the leaves and it does have a few blooms, but I wouldn't say that it's in complete bloom. And this is one of the two trailers that I have. I have only ever in my prior collection, I basically only ever had standards. So I figured this time, in like restarting my collection, I would try to have like a variety. So this is trailer number 1, and trailer number 2 is actually quite remarkable looking because it is in full bloom. So this one is Kentucky Rambler, I believe. Let me check because I get these two confused. Yeah, Kentucky Rambler. And in previous videos, I showed you that I like to put the labels on the pots so that way the little tags don't hurt the leaves. So as you can see, this one is completely just covered in blooms. And yeah, so this is the second trailer. And you can see that it has these cute little pink, I believe these are double blooms. And you can see that my understanding is that trailers are kind of like, they just kind of like spread. So this is in a pretty small pot right now because when I got it from Linden Line, it was a bit smaller. And you can see just how much it's grown in just a couple of weeks if you watch that unboxing video. So yeah, a lot of these are from Linden Lion, and you can see just how much, pretty much, that they've grown just in a couple of weeks. I mean, it's the wick, it's the mineral supplements and the fertilizers I use. So they really, really like it. So this one has grown. It's got all these little tiny babies and it's just absolutely beautiful. I have a few miniatures, and by a few, I think I mean that I only have 2 in my office. Now I have other violets, but they're not blooming. They're not as wild and just full looking as the ones in here because all the violets I purchased, they went into my office first and then I started filling out my other shelves. So this one is Jolly Deer and it is a miniature and it has these beautiful dark leaves. It's got some nice symmetry on it and you can see the flowers look somewhat like a peony to me. And they're different colors of white and pink. Beautiful burgundy on the backs of the leaves. And this is just a one of the single wick candles from Bath & Body Works and a flower pot. And I've got some yarn wicks there. And you can see there's a little teeny tiny root. Maybe you can see it right there. But yeah, I really do well with the wicks. Of course, other people do different things and they do well as well. But this really helped me when I transitioned. So if you want to try something new, you can do that. So next I'm going to move to the baby, or like they're just not mature standards. So this is a Russian hybrid and it's called God of the Sun. And it's really interesting because it came with these huge blooms. It even came with a flower that literally was shaped like a heart. I don't think that's characteristic of this plant. I think I just got quite lucky. And that was just a really interesting thing that happens sometimes. So you can see these two flowers are different. I don't know if it's because this, I pulled all the flower stalks off because this one really just kind of stopped growing leaves. And you can see the leaves are just not as good or as great as I would like for them to be. And I did that and then they all came right back. And I just haven't remembered to take them off, and I don't know if I will. So this one doesn't have a border of white, and this one kind of does. I haven't taken the time to kind of look and see if that's a characteristic flower or just an oddity. But yeah, this one's really pretty, and it's got the really nice, full, tons of petals like I had a lot of in my last collection. So this is God of the Sun. Next is a propagation. One of my friends has a lot of violets and she shared some of her leaves with me about 6 months ago. Now this one isn't blooming yet, but it does have some peduncles forming. You can see one of them is right there. I hope you can see it. See right there? I don't know if you can or not. There it is, right there. I'm not going to touch it because I might make it fall off. But this is PT Iania. It's got these really nice leaves. And it took 6 months, but now it's able to bloom. Now this is not as big as it's going to get. This is probably about the size that it will get. And this one's still pretty young too. I haven't showed it to you yet. So these are my two like baby standards. PT, Iania, and God of the Sun. So I do have one more mini. So this one is Toy Castle. And I'm spilling water everywhere. But anyways, so you can see that the center is becoming variegated. And that's just because I don't think that it was getting whatever it needed to be variegated in its last home. And now that it is, it's starting to show it. And yeah, so this one does have a few peduncles, if you can see in there. Let's see. It's really wanting to focus on my face. But yeah. That little tiny pink dot right there, that's a peduncle forming. So this one, honestly, I purchased it because it kind of looked like a Picasso. It has lots of variegation. The leaves are much darker than a Picasso, and the purple is a much lighter, but it's almost like that periwinkle purple. And then next I have the very first violet that I purchased after I lost my collection, and it is Edge of Darkness. So Edge of Darkness is a very beautiful, unique violet because it has like almost black petals and it has a white border along the edges. And you can see that there's a peduncle forming right there, and you can see the white and the dark purple. It's right there, if you can see it. So it's just going to be a very unique plant and kind of on theme for Halloween. But yeah, it's super interesting. I think it has single blooms. I honestly can't really remember. And yeah, so this was one of the better purchases that I've made on Etsy in terms of violets. It's kind of hit or miss depending on the seller, but this seller sent me a very beautiful violet. It actually had bloom stalks or peduncles on it already, but I took them all off. Sometimes I do that and sometimes I just don't. It just really depends on how many leaves the plant has and how I want it to look. Now this one, the leaves are really not laying flat, and I'm trying to figure out just how much light it does or doesn't need. All of these violets that I'm showing you are all on the same shelf, and they get pretty much full direct morning sun. Now morning sun's not as harsh as midday or evening sun, so it's doing okay, but I'm really struggling. I really want these leaves to lay flat. So it may need a stronger grow light. Okay, next is a large standard, and it is called Cranberry Sparkler. And it is just completely covered in blooms. And it's just a really happy violet. So if we take a look, I wouldn't call it a fantasy because it's not, but it does have a nice little border. I don't know if you remember King's Ransom, but King's Ransom had like a border. Now this one's a darker border, if you can see that. And it's just really pretty. It has these nice dark leaves. And this is a large standard. So this is just going to be larger than your average standard. So just for comparison, this is a mini. And this is a, honestly, more standard side. It's not a large standard yet. It's just not old enough. But you can kind of see. And then I do have a micro mini in this large enclosure behind me. And they're about the size of a quarter. So I have, I believe, 4 more violets to show you. So I ordered 4 different Optimara violets, and 2 of them are actually in my office. This is one of them. I haven't figured out what its name is. So Optimara violets don't come with a tag, but if you go to their website, you can identify them. This one had tons and tons of pink blooms, and I took all the peduncles off. There's one that I did not remove. And I didn't do that because it was just so deep in the leaves and I couldn't exactly get it without harming the leaves. So it just got to stay. But you can see this one's pretty large, just for comparison. And this, I believe, is just a standard. So this one will be larger than this one. But if you notice, you can see the stems on the leaves, and you can't see that here. So I've had this one and given it really nice light, and this one looks to be a little bit etiolated. So it will probably shrink down because it will be getting more light than it probably was in the greenhouse where it was being grown. It'll probably look more like this. I'm just spilling water everywhere. But you can see, you cannot see the stems on these, and you can on this one. But yeah, this is a really nice example of a plant that's getting enough light, but it's not getting sunburnt. So I'll get to that one in just a minute. But yeah, this one is really pretty. I had an Optimara that I lost, and a friend shared a leaf of it with me, and then I lost that too while I was on vacation. And I was just kind of hoping that I could get it because it was an Optimara and it had these big pink double blooms. Okay, so next we have Lesno Krasova. I always have to look at the tag for this one. Lesno Krashevo. It's a Russian standard, and it has flowers that don't stand up. So you can see how these just stand up. You don't have to go searching for them. But this variety, honestly, the flowers hide underneath the leaves, and I'll show you what I mean. Here's one. So I wait until they get a little bit larger, and then I pull them out from in between the leaves so that way you can see them. This one has the most beautiful leaves. They have these beautiful ruffled edges, and they're just really textured. They're super shiny, and they just look the most velvety out of all of these. So some of the leaves are shiny and some of them are not. All African violets have these really cute trichomes, and that's why I have just different brushes and whatnot, because if you get soil on the leaves, it's like not the worst thing, but aesthetically it's pretty terrible for me. So I like to brush off the soil, and it gets kind of trapped in these trichomes. So it can be kind of hard to get them off whenever they do get little pieces of soil on there. Next is an Optimara, and like the other one, I haven't identified it yet. I was going to kind of just like cut them back, see what their leaves look like when they fill in, because I have a feeling that this one's just a little etiolated and it may be harder to identify because their pictures are the most pristine and perfect versions of their plants. Now this one kind of looks like a violet that I lost. It was a no ID. It was not an Optimara violet. But yeah, so it doesn't have as dark of leaves as my other one did. And yeah, I do like this one though. It's really pretty. It's just not very symmetrical. You can see it's kind of got a bit of a bald spot here. Some of the leaves always get damaged whenever they're being shipped, and that's just because shipping is kind of stressful for a plant. They're getting knocked around. So I'm saving the very best for last here, and I really want this to be a show plant, so I'm trying to groom it to be one. So that's why it doesn't have any blooms on it right now. As soon as I can see a peduncle in there, I kind of just go in with my teeny tiny tweezers and get it. And it's easy to do because everything's super flat. Now with this one, it's not easy to do. See how this one's so etiolated and raised up, and how this one's so nice, so flat. You've got some okay symmetry on this, but this is really what you're aiming for. And that's what I'm trying to do with all my violets, is to get them to look like this. Of course, you can't control where they're coming from or what they look like, but I can aim to provide them the conditions to where they grow more like this. So you can kind of see. But yeah, it's just hard to get them peduncles out of these because they're all standing up and they're all really close together in the center. Whereas with this, I can just go in there. And this is a Picasso. It is a vintage violet. It's won tons and tons of times. It's just a tried and true violet. I like to try to go and find blue ribbon violets. Now, I'm going to be honest with you, other than this one, I don't really think I have any blue ribbons that I've showed you right now. These were just kind of violets that looked really cool that I figured I would try to grow. And in my prior collection, I think I only had 2 blue ribbons, and Picasso was one of them, and I'm trying to remember what the other one was. I'm sure I'll remember it once this video is over with. But yeah, I had 2 blue ribbon vintage violets that I lost, unfortunately. But they're really popular, so they're really easy to replace. Now, some of these other violets are kind of unusual, but I wouldn't call them rare. Now, I do have some really rare and unusual violets that I'm propagating right now, and they're going to be really cool. So I don't know if you know this, but the yellow flowers on a violet are very uncommon. So I do have a Russian, and I can't remember what the variety is called, but I do have 2 leaves of it. And I look forward to growing that simply because genetically the yellow flowers are really uncommon. And I'm sure someone can explain that as to why. Someone told me, but I'm not even going to try to summarize what they said. But anyways, just understand that it's uncommon. So yeah, you can see I pulled out a peduncle here, and this leaf's kind of like crooked because it was kind of, you know. So the peduncles can mess up the leaves as they're forming. And someone that did show violets, they said that what they do is, I need to remember not to water these right before I do a video. But anyways, they said that what they do is they trim off all the peduncles, and what they do is they let it bloom maybe 2 weeks or so before a show. So that way it's just covered in blooms. So that way the plant can focus more on the leaves. Now, I've never entered a show. I just want to do it so I can hopefully learn a little bit. But yeah, I think I might actually have better luck with my minis though. But we'll see. Because I have really great symmetry with them without even trying. See, I've got perfect symmetry and flowers. Like it just seems really nice. But this one's not exactly as flat as it could be. So the flowers kind of kick the leaves up. Thank you so much for watching this video. Be sure to like and comment your favorite variety that I have right now. And of course I have more violets, but these are just the ones that I keep in my office. So comment your favorites. Do you like standards or minis more? What do you have in your collection? What do you hope to have in your collection? And if you'd like to see more of these types of videos, be sure to subscribe, and I'll be seeing you next time. Goodbye.